Hello, hi everybody. Welcome to another edition of dDTAlks. Listen, guys, I am so privileged to have the guest today. This gentleman, guys, you do not want to miss this episode. He is an author. He's a speaker, a listing agent, a motivational speaker, an IT engineer, a lawyer with a JD, Juris Doctor, okay? And he's live here with us in the house to talk about his brand new project, which is a book that he just released. He has been touring the country. Right? You have already been touring. He's been on different networks, and he said he had to make a pit stop right here on dDTAlks. So I am so happy to have him. He started from humble beginnings, but today you'll find out where the destiny ended. All right? It's still not ended. It's still going, matter of fact. So allow me to introduce to you my guest speaker for the day, Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot. Welcome to dDTAlks.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and you're looking quite dapper.
So do you. You look fabulous. You look fabulous.
Yes, Doc. It's great. It's great to have you. I know today was like a rainy day, but you made it out here.
Yeah, it was it's been a rainy past few days. So
it really has.
But I think it's just doing its thing. So we should be.
Nature's doing its thing, right? Yeah. Nature is doing its thing.
I have to tell you, you look great.
Thank you.
And you're doing a wonderful job with the dDTAlks show. Yeah, so.
All right, now some kudos.
Yes, I think everybody should come to this show. Everybody should.
By the way, guys, if you are just joining us and you have not shared yet, what I need you to do right now before you continue is share, tag, and invite someone, because the nuggets that are going to come out of this session are life lessons, are things that you want to remember for a long time. So make sure you go ahead and share, tag, and invite someone. And if you need to call into the studio, make sure you do. The numbers right here, guys. It's 301-429-9247. Call us in the studio if you have any questions at any point to talk with our guest speaker. If you have any questions for me or for him, we'll be here to take your questions. So let's delve right into the show. Let's delve right into why we are here. You released a book recently. It's called From Meager Beginnings. The Power of Dedication, Persistency, and Consistency. I mean, the title itself is so loaded.
Yes. I guess my story is just part of a larger immigrant story, because let me speak for Cameroon, for example. I know that a whole lot.
You're speaking for Cameroon because you are from.
Yeah. So, okay. But I know that from folks from other parts of Africa, Cameroon, Nigeria, you name them, Kenya. Our story is singular. We come from a majority of us come from situations that were not the best, but we're here. So I think that this book, a lot of Africans or immigrants as a whole, not necessarily just Africans, would relate to this book, because the stories are similar.
They are similar, but there's something peculiar about your story, though, your narrative. As far as the book is concerned, you are very specific and very intentional with the title, because you say from meager beginnings.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the from Meager beginnings, because people come from Africa, and one of the perceptions is that people assume that there's still the narrative where people assume that everybody from Africa is coming with this from Meager beginnings.
Yeah.
But there's some people who come from affluence, and then there's some people who come from just middle class. Then there's the people who are just below average standard. So you're specific. You say from Meager beginnings.
Yes.
Let's hear a little bit about that.
So look, my parents were not in the upper class. They were not that lucky to go to school. They barely made it to. In those days, they called them standards, but in these days they call them elementary school.
Right.
They were not that lucky to get to even second grade in elementary school. So you know what that means. If your parents did not go to school, so it means there was no reliable source of income. They depended very much so on farm work, working in the farms, planting, corn or beans, rearing animals to send us to school. And my
so
dad,
that you could call them farmers or cattle rearers.
a majority of, especially from where I'm from, are farmers.
Right.
And they depend pretty much on farm work to survive, for school, for hospital bills, and you name them. My family was a big family. And my dad was not working. My mom wasn't. So it was
somewhere. Talk about the big family, because somewhere in the book you actually specify. You say your dad followed the traditions, which means he succumbed to the culture and was polygamous at some point. So that's what you're saying, a large family. So let's hear those numbers.
I think 19 siblings, if I'm not mistaken. 19.
So he comes from 19 siblings.
And my mom was the last of several wives. And my dad was pretty hot, man.
Obviously. I mean, how many wives are we talking about?
5.
So 5 and 19 children, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
So I think the average about 3 to 4 children.
About.
Yeah.
So to my mom, we are 3 of us.
But that's an active man.
He was very active. I could tell you that. And my mom, we were just 3 of us. And I am the first and only boy or son.
For your mom?
Yes. So pretty much.
And you talk about how that position alone put so much responsibility on you. It was a burden, not really a burden, but an honor and at the same time a responsibility.
My junior sister, who's here with me now, actually no, the one of my sisters who's in Cameroon, she pronounced my name first when she grew up. More than even my mom's name, because I was at home like a mom to my younger sisters. One of them is here, and she's almost my height, but I literally carry her. And I hope she's watching.
I hope so too. If you are not watching yet, make sure you watch. All right,
so
Miss D. By the way, guys, if you're just joining us, make sure you go ahead, share, tag, and invite. That's all we need you to do for right now. And I see David, I see Kweko, I see a bunch of you who are just joining. Thank you for joining. We have in the studio here Gabriel Njinimbot, Dr. Gabriel Njinimbot, right? And he's authored this book called From Meager Beginnings, The Power of Dedication, Persistency, and Consistency. That's what we're talking about today, if you're just joining. And we're just going to discuss a little bit about what this whole book is about, what his narrative really is. I mean, I'm telling you, it's an intriguing story that we really want to hear.
Yeah, and the other thing I like to make a correction of is that my title after law school was EJD.
Okay, EJD.
Which is Executive Juris Doctorate. Now, a lot of folks have confused that with someone who actually has a PhD.
Oh.
So I want to make that clear to the public today, so to clear out that confusion.
Okay, so
Executive Juris Doctorate is not an equivalent of a PhD. It's just the title of the degree I had in law when I graduated from law.
So a Juris Doctor is not a PhD? It's not the equivalent?
You don't actually go through the rigorous thesis and writings to become a PhD holder. But it's just like the JD program is called Juris Doctorate. That does not make you
That's deceiving.
Doctor. I know it's not my call, but that's how.
No, I understand. I mean, but I stand corrected then. I never knew that. that. Yeah, I actually assumed that Juris Doctorate, right?
It's a little misleading, but that's
okay. So we stand corrected from that. Thank you for educating us on that particular point. But then again, you talked about, being this role model for your siblings. I want to go back to the early beginnings of this book, because the essence of us capturing that really captures the title of the book, right? From meager beginnings. You narrate gruesomely, like the pains of being, going through that environment of sort of lack. You came from really a scenario where you lacked a lot. I mean, you grew up with the bare minimums. You just survived on just little, getting by. And you talk about, some of your struggles, the loneliness. You spent a lot of time in your brain.
Yeah,
you lived in your head a lot.
There's a lot that happened in my brain.
Yes,
like you said, I had dreams when I was growing. When I was a very young guy, and just like most kids, when they grow, they have these dreams in their head. My dad used to have a very old FJ40 Toyota, and it was parked for a very long time. And I used to remember going in that truck, sitting in there, and literally driving around the entire world, just in my mind.
I actually read that and I was like, wow, this is the power of like truly using your mind to take you into the future. So even though you were not caught up with the surroundings, you just said to yourself, I know this is my reality right now, but you saw something that was bigger than your now.
And you know what happened is that those dreams I had in my head in those days literally happened. Once when my dad came here, I had my dad, my mom, my wife, my kids. We were literally driving in an SUV. And
wow.
It was like a deja vu.
And it dawned on you.
It dawned on me.
Like you have seen this scene before.
Yes. And what tells us, everybody watching this show and listening to this, is that
I like that.
You should dream, and always dream big, and do not give up on your dreams, because they literally, happen sometimes.
Almost like the power of the vision board. If you can see it, you can achieve it.
Yes.
Wow, that's so powerful.
It is.
So you saw that those things that you dreamt as a child, as a 10-year-old, as a 15-year-old, manifested itself into reality.
Many of them have actually come to pass. I've seen a lot of things that I used to dream of actually manifest itself.
My God.
So this is just to tell you how powerful the brain is and the mind is, and how powerful it is when you have a positive energy towards anything you do. It always works out well.
But I want to focus a little bit on your parents, since you say your parents came here. In the book, you talk a lot about like your parents. You lend so much credit to them, right? You narrate like how you're struggling, but these people are your mentors. Yeah. They have these principles where they guide you by. They tell you can't do certain things, and you actually live by those principles. What intrigued me is the fact that you said you were practically obedient to the T.
Yeah, I was.
Like it's almost like you heard their words echo in your brain. A lot of people will revolt.
Even now, my dad is passed on right now, but a lot of the things that my dad told me when I was young still resonates today, and they are my role models. I mean, when we grew up, if you don't listen to your parents, I mean, who else? And my dad was one of those kind of people who was very calm. He didn't like to associate himself with problems. He told us up front, look, you're on your own. If you do,
I mean, if you have 19 kids, you didn't have time for foolishness.
Don't get anybody pregnant. Don't go to jail. Don't smoke what he called bad cigar. And so I listened to him, and it paid out for me, actually.
It's amazing how you sometimes people assume that because someone lacks, maybe they don't really they don't have the moral fortitude to back up their situations, because you would think that automatically because someone is in that situation, therefore they will probably do more crazy things. But these are people who were morally grounded, had really good principles, were religious, they were founded. And raise their kids in with that foundation.
And the one thing I also liked about my parents is that they never gave up on us, no matter what happened. They never complained. The one time I saw my dad and my mom most of the time really sad or kind of depressed is towards the beginning of a school year, when she couldn't figure out exactly what's going to happen with the kids when it comes to going to school. So and they knew that they depended so much on farm work, and sometimes the crops didn't do well, You know, and that's what I
Of
saw
course,
the low
because
side
you know
of,
they're doing manual. Everything is so
Yeah.
manual, not mechanical,
Yeah.
not
So,
industrialized.
but you know, they knew what it meant for kids not to go to school, so they did everything they could to make sure that they sacrificed all they could to send us to school. You know, hoping that one day, you know, we would come back and help them out.
Right. So let me go now to why did you, so now you've transitioned from, you went through all of this. How was that transition? Like the point, you had a turning point, like where, a point where you've graduated from college and now you're wondering what's next. The future still looks oblique where you're thinking, okay, I'm a graduate, I have this certificate, I have this degree. The future should be right in my palms.
So actually, graduating from the university was a turning point. And when I say turning point, usually you get excited, right? When you have a degree, or you know what, I'm done, I'm ready to hit the road, I know what to do, I'm gonna go look for jobs. No, in Cameroon and most parts of Africa, it's not the case.
Most of Africa,
it's
yes.
not the case. For me, it literally put me in a position where I didn't know exactly what to do, but I had to do something, right?
Right.
So I know most of my friends thought I was crazy about this. I had to do what they call buying and selling. And
Buy and sell 'em.
Buy and sell 'em, right? Most people relate to that buy and sell 'em.
Yes.
And the buy and sell 'em was directly at the gate of the university I left from with a second upper class degree. I sold shirts, women's clothes, buttons, all over the city. But where my customers was at the gate of the university I graduated from. And it didn't mean much to me because I knew what I was looking for. It wasn't. I didn't feel bad doing that because to me it's just a process. It's just a journey.
You understood that you had already come from way more than that.
So that wasn't a big deal for me. I did it every day. I went to other cities. I walked for miles and miles. If I come home with $1 in Cameroon money, I was excited. I felt good. I felt happy, and I kept it moving.
Interesting. So, what motivated you? What inspired you to really put down these things, capture all of this in this book? And what do you anticipate that a reader who picks up this book, what to you is the big thing that you expect for them to come out, to pick up some lessons from this book?
So, first of all, I want the readership to, when you're reading this book, pay attention to what the story is about and not too much about me per se. Because what I want to teach folks is that life is not a bed of roses, right?
You can say that again.
Yeah, life is not a bed of roses, and you cannot fall for the issues you have, the challenges you have, and just give up on your dreams. Right? So the reason why I'm writing this book is that when you're dedicated to something and you persist on that thing and you consistently do what you're supposed to do, there is no way you can fail. There's no way you can be let down.
Matter of fact, you describe it as, success is a
tripod.
It's a tripod. It's a three-legged. So if one of those things that you just described is not there, then the tripod can't stand.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who are listening from Cameroon or on any remote part of the world,
they're global. They're everywhere.
If you consider 3 stones, right? 3 stones, you put a pot on it, right? If you take one of the stones off,
it loses its balance.
Now
it's like a tricycle.
Yeah. So translate that to whether it is getting a job or getting a degree or losing weight or whatever you're trying to do in life, whatever goal you're trying to accomplish in life. Take dedication out, something is going to go wrong. Take persistence off, something is going to go wrong. Take consistency out, something is going to go wrong. So So
it's a formula that you can literally take and plug into anything that you're trying to do and expect to see results.
Most successful people, you can name them, the Bill Gates, the Zuckerbergs, the Mark Cubans, and the Oprah Winfreys, and all of these folks. That's precisely what they did. It did not happen overnight.
Right.
It doesn't happen overnight.
So you have to basically say, make a vision, make it plain, write a vision, make it plain, and then begin to watch it manifest.
Watch it work. And if you don't follow these principles, there is a tendency for you to start blaming other people. Oh, XYZ did this, they did that. But stick on these guns and trust and believe me, it works. So that's what I want folks to get out of this book. Stick to the story and see how, the struggles, the ups and downs, and look at the end results. And just don't pay too much attention up to me at all.
Well, I mean, at some point you can't help it. But I saw that you have gone to schools where you're talking to younger kids,
yes,
and you're showing them the book. So would you essentially say, I've seen young kids, one of the testimonies, they were like, I can't wait to read the book.
Yes.
And these are like kids under 10, being excited about the book. So basically is age, there's no age limit to this story.
In fact,
it's PG-13,
right.
So anybody can watch it, can read it.
On Careers Day, I mean, you know how the kids in this
Yes.
country, first graders, they read better than we do sometimes. So on Career Day, there's this little kid who literally almost made me cry.
Oh.
First of all, he said my baby picture behind that book is the most cutest picture in the world, and I was fascinated by that. And then the second thing is that he said, I cannot wait for the semester to be over so I can read this book.
Wow.
And he started reading it. I mean, and he kind of related to that book. I was very impressed, and that's one of the things I wanted to let children in schools know, that where you come from, your race has nothing to do with success, especially in this country, unlike in our countries or in other countries where you don't have that opportunity to,
where sometimes tribe can be a problem, language could be a problem.
You have to know someone that knows someone. This is not the case here. You have the opportunity to do whatever you could want to do, and don't listen to the naysayers. Just don't put any barriers in front of you. Don't tell your brain you can't do things, because the brain is one of the most powerful machines in the world. And don't put boundaries on to yourself or to your dreams because of where you come from, or what you look like. It absolutely has no bearing.
I know that you're saying that. By the way, guys, if you're just joining, make sure you share, tag, and invite. I see the comments. They are mostly for you. The comments there's someone saying they're proud of you.
Thank you.
You have Peter, you have Rick, you have David Ngwa, you have John Ginger, you have a bunch of people who are writing comments there for you, which he's going to have the pleasure of reading later on. If you have any questions, you can always send them through the chat, or call into the studio live, and we can take your questions at any time. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, I know you say it's not about race, it's not about gender, it's not about your disposition, your early disposition where you come from. Some people may argue otherwise. Some people could say, oh, it has played against me, I've struggled. I know there's one of the chapters where you talk about, America. I think you actually say is not what it seems. I think I'm trying to figure out that there was a chapter in the book where you talk about that they are not the land of milk and honey, not necessarily the land of milk and honey, and that there are good people in America. So you sort of juxtapose different positions, where you say, yes, it's not as glorious as it seems, because you could come in and be deceived that it was actually this glorious, but you have to persist. You may have to navigate your way to eventually cross those limitations. So the point I'm trying to make about arguing to the contrary is that there are people who feel like the race has played a factor to their disadvantage, or maybe there've been other barriers that has not allowed them to probably get to the peak.
Right. So
what do you have to say to that?
Well, in one of the chapters in the book, I did say something about race, and what I said was that how is it possible that the entire world, the entire planet, is confused about race? Like, some race is referred to as black, and the other race is referred to as white, and I don't see black, I don't see white. All I see is a human being. And the reason why I say so is because my children, Junior's 4 is going to be 4 soon, Samira's going to be 9 soon, and my eldest daughter is Gabriela. Now, for 200 something years now, the world has succeeded to make black people feel like anything that's attributed to black is not good, and vice versa for anything that has to do with white.
That is automatically good.
Right. So I don't want my children or any black child or any African child to think for a second that black, or I mean, there's no such thing as black if you look at it very carefully. I don't know how.
That's a fine line, though. That's a fine line. But I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So to me, I don't see white people. I see people. I'm very confident about myself. If I find myself in the midst of white people, I really don't care too much about what they think about me. And I know there's still the race issue in this country. But the point I'm trying to make is that I don't want any black child out there, be you African or from Cameroon, from Nigeria, from Sierra Leone, wherever you come from. I don't want the children that are growing nowadays to put the black, quote unquote, black mentality in their minds, because it sorts of play in their brain and make them feel that they are up to no good. Well, and that is exactly not true, because if you look at yourself, not as black, but as someone who can achieve whatever you put your mind to, the white and black thing, though it exists, should not stop you.
Yeah, because there is the obvious. There's a factual elements where you are living in a society that does exactly what you said.
Correct.
They place you in a bracket. Every form that you fill ask you what nationality, what race you belong to. So you're categorized, whether you like it or not. And we would like to not see color, but growing up in Africa, we didn't see color. Well, for one, we're predominantly black there. But even when you see white people, it wasn't about they're necessarily white. It was just about, they're here, these people. But you come here and we're so racially conscious in this environment because the media sends that to us. You go to schools, you're put in those categories. It's true that to succeed, you should eliminate those boundaries. You should not limit yourself, put yourself in those limitations. But the race is still a reality. So we're living in times where it's like Black Lives Matter.
That's true.
All lives matter.
That's true.
So you can't necessarily.
But here's the thing.
Be oblivious to that.
You're right. I am not naive to think that there's no race issues and we don't deal with this every day. But here's what I have to say about that. Life will put you wherever they want to. People will pick and choose to put you wherever they want to.
Right.
But it's up to you to take yourself out of that. Right. Right? If Martin Luther King, I'm not sure if you heard about the speech that Martin Luther King made about, pulling yourself up with your own bootstraps. Now think about this. If I ask you to sit down, right? If you sit down, I probably was just joking. But if you sit down, I'll walk out and you stay over there. We as black people, not necessarily just black, because you have some white folks out there who also think very inferior of themselves. They are. You are the master of your own fate. You decide to put yourself in a position and not blame anybody else for telling you that, you're black or you're white or whatever it is. Correct. Because if that was the case, you wouldn't have the Oprah Winfrey's today. You wouldn't have your boy Obama, who So, he went through all of that, but he decided to tell himself, you know what? I'm not even listening to this race issue. I know it exists, but I'm not going to fall for it.
You're right. I like the comparison. I like the things, the people that you highlight to validate the point, which makes a lot of sense. But the reality though is, it almost seems as though to get to that point where you don't accept it, you must excel. Like you can't just be mediocre. You can't just be average. So to get to that point where you're accepted all across the board, where people don't see you in terms of race, you must rise above. So you can't be average anymore. You must rise to excellence. You must excel. You must achieve. You must academically or career-wise something. You must elevate yourself. Yeah. So that people stop seeing those lines.
And I say this to especially awesome immigrants in this country. We flew from wherever we came from. So
there's a question here.
12,000 plus miles away to come to America. Right. Right. We have the opportunities. Correct. More than what we had in our countries. Otherwise, we
by far, here. By a wide margin.
They let us in. So I say to you, you should not listen to all of these race issues and just do what you're supposed to do in life.
Focus on your own journey.
Pick a goal, pick whatever you think is good for you, and just go for it.
I think you may be answering a question that's already being touched on here. Peter Fulcom says, Gaby, what is the best route a foreigner can take on entering into the United States with a little or no income? In terms of probably navigating your way and then ultimately survival.
So I'm not sure if Peter, actually that's my cousin. I'm not sure. Hi Peter. I'm not sure if he's talking about the travel route or how to navigate yourself when you're already in the country.
I would choose. Let me take a position for that question.
Okay.
I would say when you're already here. So we don't want to know really how you found your way in here. You're already here. What are your best survival strategies? So
there's a lot of ways you can answer that question, but I'll summarize it into two statements.
Okay.
One, the best way to navigate yourself in this country is first to stay on the right side of the law. And why do I say this?
Ignorance of the law
is no excuse. Not just that, you've seen Black Lives Matter on the streets. You've seen people get shot and killed for simple things they did or disobeying the police, even if they were right or wrong. Because guess what? At the end of the day, I just lost a brother or I just lost a sister.
That's it.
Because they argued with the police. So that's the first one. Be on the right side of law enforcement, regardless of what happens. They have the guns, you don't. The second thing is this. Be on the right side of the law. Be on the right side of life. Now, I could go on for the next 2 hours.
What is the right side of life?
Exactly.
That's like a roll of dice.
We can go on with that for the next 2 hours.
You could pick the left, you could pick the right. You never really know.
But I could go through a cheat sheet. I don't know. I didn't know you were going to ask that question.
I mean, it was a question that came from your audience. I didn't have the question for you.
Okay. So here's one, and I'm just going to go through it randomly. One of them is this: stop making excuses.
That's a good one.
9 or 10 out of 10 times, we make excuses for pretty much every single thing we wanted to do. Stop making those excuses and pull your own self with your own bootstrap, even if you have the boots or you don't. Right? Ellen Maxwell said this. I understand that some people, I'm not quoting directly, but she basically said, I understand that people have to help me to survive, right? But the one person who has the key to their own success is you.
That's right.
That's it. Don't blame Joe.
The ultimate access is yourself.
Don't blame race. Don't blame Trump. Don't blame anybody. It's on you. That's one. One of the, I'm just gonna go by here. One of the ones I like very much is that.
Okay, so there's a comment here that is a little bit. I guess they're trying to take a different position to what your comment, and I want to read that for you.
Sure.
So it's Kweku. Kweku says this narrative forgets who died, marched, was raped, brutalized, and tortured, so that we can come here and have these opportunities. In other words, they're arguing to your point about the racial, where you're not seeing the racial boundaries. I guess. The comment begs for acknowledgement of the slavery years, give credit to those who paved the way so that the new set of immigrant population can come here and probably reap the benefits of what's available here.
So let me answer that. Let me address that question.
Yes. It's a comment, really.
So one of the things I addressed in this book, towards the end of the book, is the fact that you and I, all the immigrants, would not be sitting here today and have the audacity to speak if the founders of this country and the slave, those who fought against slavery and the Emancipation Proclamation did what they did for us to be here today. I fully acknowledge that in the book and everywhere I go and everywhere I speak. What I'm trying to say though is that we should not use those things as excuses as to why we cannot achieve our goals.
Why we can no longer excel.
Why we can no longer excel. Why we can't no longer run for office. Why we can't be whatever we want. Sure enough, there's race. But Either way,
what we should more do is celebrate the fact that we had that privilege.
Exactly.
And that it is a pedestal, a platform for us to then move.
grow. So 240 years ago, trust me, I wouldn't be sitting here talking. All right?
You won't.
I wouldn't be sitting here talking, but thank God to the founders of this country, the slave people who fought against slavery. We are here today. You could do whatever you want, whenever you want, as long as you're doing it right. So we should not. I hear you. I hear what you say. Yes, there is. We should be grateful, and those things still exist today. But I'm not saying we should turn a completely blind eye to it, but that we should understand that that's not a showstopper.
No, it's not. So I mean, I think the show today is not really. We're not really going to focus on those racial lines, because that's not really the focus. Yeah, but we are acknowledging the point. So Kweku, I hear you. I hear your point and what you're really arguing. But we're going to come back on a race topic. On a race debate where we're going to actually, that would be another show.
I love talking about that.
Yeah, because it is there's so many angles that you can take to that. But we lend credence. We're resting on the shoulders of the forefathers who fought those battles, gave us that victory, and today we are positioned to take the leap forward. But let's delve into a little bit of more the narrative in this book, right?
Yes.
I guess somebody mentions Arinze's opportunity is relative. That's great, But let me talk a little bit about you came here. You've done corporate America. You've done business. You're an entrepreneur, so you've done different, sort of touched on different facets. You've done entrepreneurial work, and what do you think is like the ideal? I guess I'll tie into one of the questions from the comments here. What do you think? Which is the best narrative? I mean, like, do you think entrepreneurship outweighs corporate world, or are there any tangible benefits to either or? What are some of the lessons learned, or what would you recommend to the average onlooker? I know it's a tough one.
That's a very tough one, because I still work for somebody. So
hey, but, that is your reality. I do too.
But the reality is that you have to strike a balance between both. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're owning a business, is good, but it's not as easy as most people think. It's one of those things where if you're not into it, you cannot really understand what's happening in the business world. It's like someone who is in Africa, somewhere in Cameroon or in any part of Africa, who wants to come to the United States, and if you tell them, so look, life here is not a bed of roses, right? They wouldn't understand it. But in business, it's not very easy. But if you ask my opinion, I would say you should strike a balance of both, because on your job, you have no idea if you're going to actually go back to work tomorrow and your key card is going to work or not.
No, you don't.
So I would say you should lean more towards being an entrepreneur or owning a business, such that if it doesn't work out at your job site, you have something.
You always have a plan B.
Yes. That's what I would say as far as that's concerned. But I definitely encourage. Look, us Africans, immigrants, wherever we come from, we just don't know how powerful and how knowledgeable and how talented we are in this country. And we've forgotten about those things, and we kind of laid back. You are capable of doing anything. If you lived in Africa and moved to the United States and you can't do anything, because life in Africa is tough.
It is.
It is tough. It is tough.
But I want to see, the book is a book that anyone can sort of relate to. I know you talk about us Africans and stuff. Can an American pick up the book and see value? Can an American, an average American, can a white Joe, a guy from India, a guy from Tobago, where can they pick up this book and say, you know what, I see some lessons. There are things in there that I can actually relate to, even though it's a narrative of someone in maybe continental Africa. 2
days ago, I was on a radio show. It was more of an American radio, and I have to tell you, a majority or most of my readership are non-Africans. They relate with the book, and they are very curious to find out exactly what happened in what's happening in Africa in those days, and and seeing
the reality.
Exactly, because most folks here who've never been to Africa don't really understand what the main difference is between Africa and here. Let me tell you one funny story.
I'd like to hear.
I went to Career Day, and I think it was his third grade class. It was a third grade class. And one of the kids asked me, can I ask you a question? Sure, you can. And it was a she. She said, do you still live in houses? So I think that this kid, it was a white little kid, has the impression, or she's been told, that people in Africa still live on trees.
Right.
So she asked me that question. And, I said...
So this is a narrative that has been perpetuated.
Exactly.
That continues to persist.
Till
so
now.
they continue to pass it on even though they are fully aware
that's not true.
that we don't have people living on trees.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
It was more amazing because if it's coming from a third grade kid, it means that she heard this from someplace.
Right.
And it must not be from another kid. Even if it's from another kid, that kid must have heard this from
another
someplace
adult.
else. Yes. So, but just answer your question, I have a lot of friends who are Americans, Indians, that are very excited about this book. They bought it, they've read it. I've received tons of questions, and
So it's a book that is relatable.
It's relatable to everyone.
Let me ask you a question. Like, you wrote the book. There's so many chapters. You cover different parts in life. You talk about your whole journey.
Yes.
Transitioning from Africa, rural Africa, going to the city life, and then finding your way here. And then there's the reality, the struggles.
Yeah.
First of all, of finding your way. When you first coming here, and I know there's one part where you talk about choosing your path. First of all, choosing your path is such a broad thing. I mean, it's like they throw you in an ocean, and then they say figure out your way to swim back to the shore.
Right.
And you're like, okay, which direction is the shore, right? It's sort of what choosing your path is, because there's so many options. But how do you zone in to say, okay, this eventually is what will eventually pan out?
So, I would say that choosing your path in this case is picking and choosing what motivates you, what you think you can do best, and just gun for it. Like, don't let people influence you. Like if you wanted to be a journalist, or if you wanted to be a pilot, if you wanted to be an attorney, if you wanted to be a doctor, just go for it. Pick your path, just gun for it, because that's what your instinct tells you. That's what your mind tells you. You think about millions of things in one day. Why is it that just one aspect of the thousands of things that you've been thinking of
becomes the predominant thought?
The predominant one. So, and
that's a lesson on finding your purpose.
Yes.
Really.
And in that process, you're going to have people come and try to talk you out of it. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to naysayers. Don't listen to people who tell, oh, you can't or you cannot do it. Just go with your instinct. 9 out of 10 times, you never go wrong. So that's what
I can attest to that, because something like what I'm doing today, this is something that like just us being on this show is like, you come here, first of all, you're told about your accent. There's so many things that you hear, and you're like, okay, maybe you're not going to succeed, you're not going to excel. But yeah, you have to admit that maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, the opportunities were not really there per se. So it wasn't even so much about the accent. It was just being positioned in a place where the opportunities were not really there. But now technology has advanced, so many things have evolved that have now allowed us to be where we are.
Talking about accent, right? Who has an accent and who don't?
Everybody. That's a good question. Who doesn't have an accent?
What makes people think that only Africans have an accent? What is the right accent? Look,
that's a universal question.
I used to work in a seafood restaurant in College Park, Maryland, where everybody, I used to wait tables. The very first question they asked me was, where are you from? I said, why? And they said, because I hear an accent. And I actually addressed that in the book. I said, what do you consider an accent? Is it, because I don't think I have an accent. Everybody has some accent.
Well, why? An accent that places you in a region of the world. So people from every region have a tonation, a tonality, the way they pronounce.
So you should ask me what region of Africa are you coming from? Not because you heard an accent.
Yes.
Because you
well, the accent gave it away. Sometimes they will say your hair, the way you look, something about you. But I think it's a conversational starter. If you're coming with good intentions. But some people are saying that so that they can help make you feel inferior to yourself.
So I started asking them, I hear an accent. Where are you coming from? Where are you from?
And they were like, I have an accent? Yeah. Put it back on them, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things, you're very big on charity, giving back, going and giving back to your own community.
Yeah.
is that something that you propagate, that you will encourage,
It reminds me of where I came from. When I go back to Africa and see those kids, it reminds me of the lifestyle I used to live when I was growing. Walking without any shoes, struggling for little pens and pencils and things like that. Going to those schools puts me back to where I was, and giving hope to those children. Who knows, one day they could grow up and travel. I give them hope, because talking to them sometimes is actually can make them very hopeful. I think most people should do that. When you travel back home to your country, individual countries, talk to someone, give them hope. Hope is,
your story inspires, like when you come back, and your story inspires. And then just to support your point, like when people go back, don't think your experience is minimal, right? Share your story. You never know who that story could move.
Exactly.
Someone could just listen to you and be like, wow, I want to be
exactly
aspire to that. Guys, I want to take you back to this book, where you can find this book. It's right here in case you are missing it and you're just looking at the dapper gentleman here. In case you're just looking at him, remember that he authored this book. It's called From Meager Beginnings, The Power of Dedication, Persistence, and Consistency. And he has proven that if you follow these principles, you can actually turn your situation around.
Yes.
He applied it from grade school, applied it in university, applied it in his career, applies it in business, applies it in every single thing, and he sees nothing but results.
Correct.
You can attest that this guy, he knows what he's doing. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
He's a savvy businessman, really great at what he does in his IT career as well. So we really commend you for all the amazing work that you do in a community and stuff. Oh, there's a caller. So that we have a call on line 1. Caller, you're live. This is Diane, dDTAlks.
Yes, I was calling into the dDTAlks show.
Okay, welcome. What was your comment or question today?
Oh, I thought we can call in. Just that I wanted to talk about the fact that African people have most of our accomplishments came from being united. Most of the greatest accomplishments that we have been because we have been united. So what impact does unity and not practicing being united with all of our people all over the world, how does that affect you when you are trying to be successful, when other groups have the same thing?
That's actually a very good question. I would mention something that Eric Thomas. I'm not sure if you know Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker. E.T.
Mm-hmm.
E.T. said this, that most people think that the lion is the king of the jungle, but the lion truly is not the king of the jungle. The king of the jungle should be a
elephant.
No, not an elephant. A tiger. Or leopard. But the only difference is that the tiger walks by himself and the lions don't. The lions walk in a pride. And that's one of the issues that we have. You're on point. You are absolutely correct. That once we don't do things in a community, we do not stay united, we lose our strength of development, of individual group self-development, community improvement, and things like that. So you are absolutely correct. When we will learn to actually do things in a pride, then we will become the king of the jungle. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but you are absolutely correct.
Yes, you did. I apologize when I was calling in. It's a delay in the feed that I'm watching and hearing. So I wanted to, I know Didi probably going to beat me. But great show. Thank you. But I wanted to highlight one important fact.
Please do.
The options, the achievements, all of the opportunities, the great jobs, the corporate advancement that we have in this country came from Africans that were already here. They are in the condition that they're in. The truth is, those are our brothers and sisters. We left them here. When you look at Ethiopia, Israel went back to Ethiopia, quietly put thousands of Falas Moors on a plane and brought them back to Israel because they said that that's the 12th tribe, the lost tribe, and their brothers and sisters.
Right.
People in America were brutalized. They beat the confidence out of them. They had black-owned businesses and those things. Also, those our brothers and sisters that have been here, die, because if they did not, they will not let us come over to this country. I don't believe in I am superior or inferior to anybody, but I am black, and I am proud of that fact.
Absolutely.
And the truth is, most of us don't want to be black, so the question of success and unity will have to address the issue that most people don't want to be black. They hate their own blackness and their own roots. If you hate the roots of a banana tree, you like bananas? Of course not. So I think that race does matter. I don't believe in racism, but I'm proud to be black. And if you listen in this country, a lot of the thing that was most offensive to me is that our brothers and sisters have been killed here, they've been killed in Brazil, they've been killed overseas.
In Libya.
For doing nothing other outside of just being black. That is a reality. When your son or your daughter or your children or your wife get pulled over, they have to worry about dying. When you leave that corporate office, you have to worry about if the police pull you over for doing nothing, just being black. Right?
Yep. So
they may kill you, they can get away with it, and the reason they can get away with it is unity and those things. So I do think that race does not have to be racism. You can be proud of who you are, where you come from. But if you don't know where you come from, this country was not built by Americans. It was built by intelligent, creative, black Africans that came from Africa. I'm proud of that fact.
Awesome.
These corporations, these businesses, these billions and billions of dollars that are particular. Not all. I have plenty of friends. I don't have white friends. I don't have black friends. I don't have Asian friends.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't categorize them by race. My issue that was offensive is that people think we can just listen to the law.
Sure.
That doesn't work. I own business. Go ahead.
No, caller, we are getting to the top of the hour, so I may have to abbreviate your comment for now. I want our guest to respond to the comment, and then so that we can conclude. We're getting to the top of the hour, but thank you so much for the call in and the comments. Very poignant points.
Yeah. So thank you for that that message. So what I want people to learn from what you just said is for us black people to go out there and preach this to our children. Like, look. Be confident. Be confident.
Caller, you're live on line 2. Line 2, you're live. This is dDTAlks.
Hi. Good evening, dDTAlks. This is Arinza.
Hi, Arinza.
I wanted to see if there's an opportunity to let your guest, since he has the platform to be able to talk about Africa, to also educate people that Africa is actually a continent, not just a country. Because most of the notions people have and why they generalize statements about Africa is from different perceptions that they've seen. But when they understand that America is United States of America, Brazil, Mexico, all these other countries, and that the United States of America is actually part of a continent. They will also understand that Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, all other African countries are countries that are in the continent. Maybe that's one of the tutoring that we need to give people that really don't know, like someone that actually if people still live in a house. I just wanted to chime that in because we always fail to elaborate the fact that Africa is actually a continent and not a country. Because that mistake is always
well taken, sir.
Well everywhere. Thank you.
I will do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for the comment. I think you already gave the lesson for the audience, but thanks for the call. We appreciate the comment. That was great feedback.
Yes.
From that, I think you have so was it your mom is Edith Fogam says that's my dad, proud daughter. All right, so Meager, so you have a lot of positive feedback coming here. Before we get to the end of this, I know you didn't even have proper time to respond to all the comments.
I know. Yeah.
We're trying to get to the hour here, but I just want to find out from you, what was your most sentimental chapter when you were reading this book? When you were writing this book?
The
chapter that spoke to you the most?
The most sentimental part of this book was, for me, was when I went back to Africa. When I came here, did the things I was supposed to do, and the first time I went back home, it was very sentimental to me because I went back not the same way I came here, and the difference was really, was a stark difference between what we have here and what I see over there, and sort of put me in a depressed mood because I wish life was a little bit better for those who are in Africa and the kids I see, the children. I just wish the future was a little bit better for them than what it was when I went over there. Now, as you know, and for Cameroon in particular and most parts of Africa, it's getting better, but it's not there yet.
You're right.
So, but that was the part that put me in a very sentimental mood. It was a different. I wanted to stay there longer than I wanted to.
And it probably nudged something in you, right?
Yes.
Just put you in a position of more responsibility.
Exactly.
Like you felt you owed the continent even more.
Yeah, and I went back to my room, the room I used to be in there, and meditate by myself, and I was like, wow, it's a big difference. And it actually stirred me to see if I can do something better for the people in Africa, especially in the realm of education and health. Those are my two big things. If I ever become rich, like one of the Gates or anybody, those are the two domains I will fight for till I die.
Like they say, it doesn't take a whole lot to help someone in Africa, right?
Yes.
So you don't have to wait to have the millions to begin with what you have. And I know you've already done that. You already started with the little that you had, and you continue to make your way. Guys, we're getting to I mean, this was such a good episode. I don't even know how to explain it. I wish we had more time, but we really don't. I want you guys to make sure you get a copy of this book. Go to where?
Amazon. And those of you who are around here, you could contact dDTAlks and call me on my phone number. And
your phone number? You're trying to give your phone number?
Well, talk to Didi to send WhatsApp me or inbox me, as they say,
on Facebook.
Facebook.
Are you on Instagram? Are you on social media? How can they find you?
LinkedIn.
And they can find you as yourself, as your name.
They can find me as myself, and I could either mail you a copy, or you can pick it up, or whatever you do, or whatever it takes for you to get a copy. Just inbox me.
All right. So he's told you how to get access to this book. This is such a good read. It has pictures. I mean, it's such a good read. I'm telling you, it's so detail oriented. I really did. I'm telling you, you do not want to not have this copy. It's a book to have in your library. So make sure you have it in your collection. Read the book for yourself, because there's so much in it. There's reflections. He actually gives you more advice on how to, pave your way and navigate your way. He actually addressed a lot of the things that the comments that you guys already gave are actually in the book. So he's a forward thinker.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you did.
We did. You might have to come back for another debate. Maybe we'll bring him back for the race talk. Okay?
I love debates.
Yes, he loves debate. He loves debate. So, do you have a website or anything else?
No, I'm working on a website for this right now, but the book is readily available on Amazon. If you want it next day shipping, you can have it. Just go over there and order it, and it's right there. And as soon as I have the website up and running, I will let all my readers know.
So this is evidence that you can come from nothing and become something. All right. So he came from, truly speaking, nothing, and made his way to the top of at least what he perceived to be his vision. So if you have a vision, if you have a dream, if you can dream it, you can definitely achieve it. It was an honor to have this gentleman, this author here with us in the house. Good read. Make sure you
and one last thing I'll leave you with.
Yes.
And I read this.
Yes.
From Martin Luther King. It says, keep it moving. If you cannot fly, run. If you cannot run, walk. If you cannot walk, crawl. But the most important thing is that you should keep it moving.
All right. So on that note, let's keep it moving. The hour is over. I want to thank Gaby. Any shout outs?
Hey, shout out to my cousins, my wife, my children, my family, everybody. Peace out.
You're not going to give me a shout out. Okay.
You did a very good job. Very good job.
All right, guys.
Everybody should come to the dDTAlks show. It's very, very interesting.
That's it. That's what I wanted to hear.
Everybody,
guys.
dDTAlks.
Follow, guys.
dDTAlks.
Follow the conversation.
By the way, you didn't tell folks about your next event, wherever you're going to be next
Okay,
week?
so by the way, next week we have the Bali Convention, which will be in Dallas, Texas. That's where we're going to be in Dallas. So I think I may be streaming from Dallas. I'm not sure yet, but I may be here. But over the weekend, we're going for Memorial Weekend. We're going to be in Dallas. Then the weekend after that, we have the Gwefuni Fashion Week, and then the weekend after that,
She's
we
going
have
places.
lesser.
She's going
I mean, there's just
places.
so much going on, and then
She's
there's a
going
Europe
places.
tour in the pipeline coming up, guys.
Uh-oh.
There's a Europe and possibly China. Yes, that's
Hey,
so good stuff.
Take
is
me with you.
yeah, we're
So we
going
can
to
do
fly places. All right, guys. So it's been real. It's been a wonderful hour. Make sure you do one thing for me: share, tag, and invite, and follow our page as well. The web page that you can follow us for more information is www.dDTAlksmedia.com. Make sure you go subscribe to our page, and we are also on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are on social media. All right.
Everywhere.
So it's been real. Thank you so much. I always like to start off by saying, if no one has told you that they like you, guess who loves you? It's your girl Diane, and I love you passionately with the love of God. Stay blessed and make it a wonderful week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to WBGR World Network.